Okay, hi everybody. We have been pushing through some technical difficulties, so we decided to do this on Zoom, and I'm going to be able to download it later. You're going to hear a lot of baby in the background. You're going to hear just life in general happening as we do through this. But I did want to share something real quick right before we got on. Ruby pulled the Nine of Pentacles. Um, so the Nine of Pentacles is an abundance card. It is about how you've worked through something and then gotten abundance from it. It's a progression card. And I thought it fit really well into what we're going to be talking today with my friend Christian here. Christian is the founder of Standing Stones Healing. He's a Reiki Master card reader, and he helps people transition through their just transitions in life, spiritual transitions, and other things. So I'll just go ahead and let you take over. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Tamara, thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you. It's a great honor to be here and to be able to talk about transitions. So, thank you so much. So, yes, I do own and operate Standing Stones Healing, where I encourage spiritual seekers to thrive during their transitions, to use transitions as an opportunity for transformation. And I do that through primarily Reiki, card reading, coaching, and my 7-way path. And so it's a real honor for me to be able to help people through their transitions to not only survive, but to also use them as opportunities for transformation.
That's great. And I want to get into that seven-way path a little bit, but before we do, I wanted to share with everybody the story behind your name, Standing Stones Healing. When I asked you about this in our very first interview, when we were getting kind of comfortable with each other, you went on the story about how you named it, and I would like for you to share that with my audience.
Oh, thank you, Tamara. Absolutely. I founded Standing Stones Healing and named it Standing Stones Healing because I have a real affinity for ancient standing stone structures. And to me, these ancient standing stone structures are a beautiful message for us all. Here are these stone structures that have been erected thousands of years ago by human beings just like us. And so it is incredible to me that these stone structures still stand thousands of years later. Now, some stones fall. That's part of the process. That's part of the growing and dying and cyclical process of our lives, that we have these standing stones that have at once stood the test of time and are indeed decaying, falling down. They too will return to the earth just like us. And for me, those standing stones are a real reminder to us that we are just as powerful as those standing stones, and that we too will eventually fall to the earth in the great cosmic revelation of the world, the great unfolding, the great circle, the great wheel of life. I like to think of those standing stones as a link in that long chain, just like we are a link in that long chain. And so Standing Stones Healing is in honor of those stones and in honor of the standing stones within all of us. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful sentiment to, excuse me, itch. It's just a beautiful sentiment to what you do. I love that you have such a powerful message behind everything that you do. And every time I've talked to you, you speak with such intention about your work. And I find it very just healing just to be in your presence. So, what is the seven ways path? Talk to me a little bit about that and how you use that in your work, how this has helped people.
Great, thank you so much. I am very passionate about the 7-way path. And the 7-way path started many, many years ago. So back in 2008, I was not in a good place. I was in a toxic work environment. And when I say a toxic work environment, this was the kind of place where I was literally sick to my stomach to go to work. As a matter of fact, I would get sick to my stomach on my days off just thinking about going back to work. It was a very toxic work environment. At the same time, I was in an unhealthy, abusive relationship. And so that was an emotionally very unhealthy relationship. And at the same time, my best friendship of 10 years, very close friendship, was crumbling. And so all of those things were happening at the same time, and I was not in a good place. I was physically ill, I did not feel like myself, and I was really heading in the wrong direction for sure. Fortunately, everything crashed and burned. So all at once, I was fired from that toxic job. I finally broke free from that abusive relationship after having tried numerous times to leave. And my best friendship really did dissolve. And when I say all at once, I mean it all happened in 1 month. And so I was left literally crying in a puddle of tears. I had never hit an emotional wall like that. It was so severe, the emotional outpouring that I experienced with that, because here was years, I had been at that job for about a year and a half, I believe. I had been in that relationship for 2 years. That friendship had been falling apart for a couple of years, and so I had been really holding on to all of that. So when it all crumbled, I was just hit with an emotional wall, and bounced to the ground pretty hard. In the process of picking myself back up, and it took me quite some time to be able to really pick myself up and piece my life back together. But during that time, I used 7 transformative practices to heal and grow and to build my life back from that point of despair. Really, I was in despair. And so these 7 practices were really what helped me to bring myself back to myself. And Tamara, these were practices that I had been doing, but in all of my emotional turmoil, all of my challenges, I got away from those practices, and I was doing them less and less, when indeed those were the very things that would have helped me to maintain my sanity and probably leave that toxic work environment myself, and probably leave the relationship sooner, and probably have a bigger, a better coming to Jesus moment with my friend earlier. So those practices were things I had done but had gotten away from. And so it was really simply a returning to those practices. And those practices are: number 1, gratitude. I'm a firm believer in the power of gratitude to transform our lives. Number 2, cleaning. Clearing out, decluttering, getting rid of what no longer serves us, both on an energetic level and a physical level, in order to make space for new energy. Number 3, nature. I firmly believe that nature is the greatest healer. And so during that time, I spent a lot of time out hiking, out in the woods, getting messages from the spirit of the woods, finding cool sticks and stuff that were really meaningful to me, having conversations with trees. So
Yeah, I hear
nature,
this a lot from people. Yeah, nature's
yeah.
a big one for me as well. And you said something like whenever you hit that part, and you said that you were going through it and you kind of forgot, you were already doing these 7 processes that you're going to finish telling us about. But what caught my attention, I had myself on mute, I was trying to talk and I realized I was on mute. And but this part where you get so emotionally like where you like said you hit the bottom, we forget, because we are only so much, we only can process so much at one time. And when we start to like process these negative things and we're emotionally like trying to detach, we forget about the things that bring us joy, or we forget about the things that we practice because we're so overwhelmed. And that it's not that we forget even, it's just that they just kind of are get pushed to the side because we're so overwhelmed with our human self that our soul is not being tended to. And a lot of times too, these people and these things that are happening, they suck that energy from us, and so we don't have anything in our cup to help ourselves fill up. And so gratitude and nature and all of the things that you're saying now, and so you can continue on that. I just wanted to put in that sentiment because I completely can relate to all of that.
Yes, thank you so much for that point. It really is an important point to make that when we are in the midst of turmoil and upheaval, oftentimes we forget our tools that we have available to us. And when we don't forget, oftentimes we're just so overwhelmed that to reach out for any of those tools just feels so staggering, really. So thank you for that point, Tamara. That's a great point. So let's see here. Number 4 on the 7-way path is walking. I do believe that walking is an incredible, creative, and powerful practice for integrating our experiences. Number 5 is journaling. I have been a journaler my well, not whole life, but my whole adult life. And that was definitely something I was not doing during those challenging times because I was afraid of what being honest with myself in my journal might reveal about where I was on my journey. And number 6 is ritual. Ritual is so powerful for helping us to create change. You know, I'm all about changes and transitions, and we can use ritual to help signal that change is happening to the brain and to purposefully use it with intention to usher in new life phases. And then number 7 is silence, and that includes meditation. So, sitting quietly, contemplating, formal meditation, or meditation in whatever way, shape, or form it might mean to you, but taking intentional, purposeful time for quiet.
That's such a beautiful, and it's such a great way um to express it. And you said something that really caught me, and walking. When I was younger, um, hold 1 second. Okay, sorry. I just my dogs. There was somebody here. So, walking. Going back to walking. Just so you know, these interviews are very real because stuff happens on my. I'm not like prepared. I'm not like. I mean, I'm prepared, but I mean, life goes on around me, and I just kind of like embrace it because it is what it is. It's super real. So I appreciate you to managing through that because this is how it's always going to be for me. I'm not ever going to try and hide in a box and like protect everybody from the life that's going on around me because my life is chaos and I accept it and I love it. As we can tell with my you've experienced my not being able to connect. So on the internet, for some reason the internet's not working for me. So walking. When I was younger, I would walk for hours. I would walk. I remember I walked one time. I was in a very had a very painful narcissistic person in our lives that was, and it was like a narcissistic abusive. It wasn't just like narcissistic traits. It was literal. This is what they were. And I remember running away from home one day, and I literally walked from Southport, North Carolina, to Myrtle Beach, and that is in a car. That's an hour and a half drive at 60 miles an hour. And I walked and walked and walked. And I walk now. When I take a walk, I walk and meditate. I walk in silence. I walk and I clear that energy out. Another one that you said was journaling. I haven't really been into journaling on the spiritual aspect of it, as far as like a lot of people are into journaling and like kind of really reflective. But I've always been a writer and a journalist. I was a journalist. I'm a writer now. I've always been a poet. So I guess that would have been my journaling. I recently, and the Tibetan monks even talk about how journaling and how writing takes that energy that you have built up and it transitions and you put it onto paper. And some of them even talk about burning it and it turns it into another area. So you take what you write and then you release it with the fire. And fire is also a way of connecting to our ancestors and into other, other realms, and really connecting to that spiritual space. So ritual is something that I feel is very important. And ritual can be misconstrued as, like, what people would think of like ritual, like if you do in church or you do in these. But a ritual is a habit, is a positive habit that you do. Like in the morning, my ritual is to get some, I like to make a cup of coffee or make a cup of tea. And recently I've been doing lemon water because I've been having some stomach issues. So I've been like, my morning, I wake up every morning and I get that, and I sit down and I open up something positive, whether it be a book, a webcast, or something. I always start my morning ritual off that way. So just for those people listening, a ritual isn't necessarily something that you have to do that's on a spiritual level, but it's a kind of just something that you continuously do that makes you feel joy, that makes you feel good, that puts you in a place to start moving on through the rest of the day. Or if it's the middle of the day, I have a thing that stops me in the middle of the day. So I feel that in the silence, that's just so important, to be able to sit in silence and to really sit with your thoughts and not be chaotic and not let the overwhelm take you under, is extremely important. Um, Something I wanted to touch on, and we talked about this earlier, is a lot of times people think about transition as going through a hard time. Like you and me, we've went through very extreme hardship to get to the spiritual space of grounding that we're at now. And it's always a work. It's like it's always an exercise. It's not. I'm just now getting to an awareness space in my life where I'm able to like let go of things. I'm upset one day, but in my past it would be like this month long event. Now it's like one day to the next. It's different. I don't hold on to my emotions anymore. So, but I want to ask you a question. I want to ask your opinion on how somebody can have a spiritual awakening or a spiritual transition through joy. Is this something that you've witnessed? Is this something that you can relate to? Is this something that maybe, people out there that have just like experienced something extremely joyful in their life and they want to hold on to that joy. And so they join this spiritual path or this transition into holding on to that and creating that space using the seven paths even, like by using those seven ways of grounding what and getting into that spirit. Have you experienced that?
That's a great question. Thanks for that, Tamara. On a personal level, yes, I have. And I want to say, as far as transitions and this idea of spiritual awakening and spiritual transitions, is that we often think that these happen in a big kind of way. But it's not always the case. Sometimes we can have big shifts that happen all at once. And any of us can have those at multiple times throughout our lives. But transitions don't have to only look that way. As a matter of fact, transitions can look an infinite number of ways. And so they truly can be happening on a very incremental basis. And so what that means is that when it comes to our spiritual expansion, when it comes to spiritual transitions, these don't have to be like the big awakenings that we think of, or like, for instance, the near-death experience. This is one that is a really common big one that people might think of when they think of a big major spiritual shift. Oftentimes when people have a near-death experience, they experience a big spiritual shift. But spiritual shifts don't have to look that way. And so when it comes to this idea of joy as a propellant for spiritual shifting, it doesn't have to be a sudden explosion of joy. That too can be experienced on incremental levels. And I know for me, on my own spiritual journey, there have been times, I'm thinking of one time in particular, I was in a bookstore. This was way back in 2003, 2002, something like that. I was in a Barnes and Noble, and I'm flipping through a book. I don't know, probably a book of poetry. I was really into poetry. And I just had this sudden washing over me of just absolute joy and being in love with everyone and everyone's life, and just really kind of just reveling in this just feeling of awe of our world and everyone in it, and the sheer miracle that we all are. And so in that moment, just being absolutely in love with my life, with the person's life who was walking past, with anyone and everyone's life, whether I knew them and had met them or not. Just this sheer miracle of it all really was just awe-inspiring to me. Now, I'll be honest, I don't feel that way all the time. So, when I'm driving down the road and someone stops their car right in front of me and I almost crash into them, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm so joyful about them and the beautiful joy of their lives. What a miracle that I almost just crashed into this person. I'm not always thinking that. So,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not
I mean,
always
we're
feeling it.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it's so great you're talking about this because I'm reading the book Polishing the Mirror by Baba Ram Dass. And in the book, in the part that I'm reading right now, he actually talks about that explosion of love that you feel for everybody at the same moment. And so Bhakti, love of God, is the essence of all spiritual discipline. And he goes on to talk about how it doesn't matter if you call it love or God or the guru or the truth of who you are. How you think of it is really irrelevant, and the emotional tidal wave of love affair with the divine is so intense that it carries you beyond your thinking mind. And so in Sanskrit, that soul joy is called Satsit Ananda. It's a truth consciousness bliss. And so this is what you were feeling in that moment. And it's something, it says, loving God is totally safe because the object of love is ultimately your true self.
Yes.
And he talks about in these moments of like when he's with his guru, he talks about being in that space of him and just no matter what he did, you couldn't help but love everything. He talks about having this experience where he was swimming with the dolphins, and one of the dolphins was Rosa, or I can't remember her name, but he said he had this epiphany. He was like, "I'm going to swim with the dolphins." He's like, "This is ridiculous." He was like, "This is like I'm not. This isn't what I'm into." He's like, I just really don't know what to do or like this is kind of weird. He said, but at this moment he came in and he got this sense of peace, and the dolphin came out of the water and like hugged him. And he said at that point he had this connection with the dolphin and just loved the dolphin and loved everything around him in the water. And it was one of those waking moments for Baba Ramdas, Rupert, who was like, he was just like, at that point I could feel love in everything. And he's like, and I told the dolphin I love you and fell in love with this dolphin. And he's like, at any point in your life you can feel these like bursts of joy. And he said that, and that's your like when you expand and you feel that greater consciousness. He said luckily for him he's been able to, like, as a guru now, he's passed away, but he was able to feel that at all times and be able to like encompass that. And so the journey is to reconnect to that wholeness and to find that joy in that. And so when we go through these transitions and we go through that, I feel that with my experience, I did hit rock bottom. You said something about the death experience. That was my first experience with the greater consciousness. I committed suicide and I died, and then they brought me back to life. In that moment of death, I was connected to the greater consciousness, and I felt that I was just dark, and I could hear the consciousness talking to me, and I was just like, where am I? And I remember this conversation, and it was very quick. And then they resuscitated me, and I came back, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this happened. And then, so I've had multiple times that were like built up to my spiritual like awakening, I guess you could say. But what has really grounded me in continuing my path are those ultimate moments of joy and pure love that I feel for my surroundings. And those are the moments that actually propel me to continue my path. Whereas I have moments of downtime still. I have hit rock bottom on multiple levels and multiple times in very, very low places. And but now that I've quit drinking and I've quit doing like putting myself in these positions to experience these extremely low places, now my spiritual wellness and my spiritual awakenings that happen, because even though I'm woke, I keep there's deeper and deeper and deeper layers to everything, and you can never stop learning. But once you learn the truth, you continue to propel on that as well. But what I'm getting to is that now I use those joyful moments to help me continue on my path, whereas the down part is what got the starting point, and now the joy is what I strive for, almost like a drug. It's like, okay, it's time to be joyful. So I follow that gratitude path. What am I grateful for today? I had a conversation with somebody today, and it was for a work interview, but I was just like, I was like, I try to find the positive in the negative. And so it's like, I just switch it around. Instead of saying, oh God, this is going to be hard to do, I say, oh gosh, how am I going to figure this out? Or just kind of like in that perspective. So I try to find the joy in everything so that I can continue on that grounding path of gratitude. And the 7-way path is just such a genius concept of like how to keep yourself moving through that with the walking, the silence, the what was it before walking? What was the one that was before walking?
Nature.
Nature, yes. And obviously, I mean, I escaped Costa Rica, so I mean, I'm a tree hugging, plant loving, just don't kill the ant, don't kill the spider, put it out. We have tarantulas, and my dad would have probably peed the bed a few times on that, but I I take them and I put them out. I get over my fear because I love that animal or that insect or that tree or whatever. So I mean, there's just so much connection and being able to connect on that. And I think that 7-way path is a great way to help people transition. So from that conversation, I want to just I want to kind of close out on um how how are you what are you offering to people now to get them connected with you? How can they find you? How can they connect with you? Tell us about. I want you to tell them about your YouTube channel, which I'm going to get on. I'm going to get this. This is like my drive to like figure out this tech issue, and I really appreciate you dealing with me, by the way, on this, and like really getting me recording and like getting this on, because this was I've been it was it's been a struggle, but we're here. And I want to hear about your channel. I want to hear about your offerings, and I want you to tell the audience like how they can get it. And I'm going to put it in the show notes as well. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about that for a minute.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And I do want to say that we are all no strangers to tech issues, myself included. I've had plenty of massive technological failures myself, and I am sure I have plenty more on the way. So for sure. The thing is that it's just, I guess, your turn this time rather than mine. I don't know, maybe mine too.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, and this is my first go round about this too. Like I'm just going with it. Like people are responding to me. They want to get on. They're like, yes, let's do the lives, and I'm doing it. And however I got to get around it, I am. And you helped me this time, so we'll just see what happens next week.
Yes, it's
Stay
awesome.
tuned.
Yeah, that's great. So, yes, I do have a YouTube channel, and on my YouTube channel, it's at Standing Stones Healing. You will find a variety of videos. So, I have distant Reiki healing ceremonies on there. I offer free Facebook Live distant Reiki healing ceremonies on or around the full moon primarily, sometimes the new moon as well. And all are invited to those. And then if you can't join live, I post the replay on my channel. So I like to call it Reiki on demand. So anytime you want Reiki, just go to my channel. There's a bunch there. Then I also have monthly choose one of 3 card readings. So every month I do a comprehensive card reading. You choose number 1, 2, or 3, and there is a reading for your monthly messages. I have other videos on there too, some encouragement. I have a couple of interview series. So I'm interviewing, chatting with people about the 7-way path practices. So people who have used these practices in their own lives and how they have benefited from them. And I also offer a series called the Reiki Business Collective. And that is a series of interviews with other Reiki business owners for Reiki business owners or those considering starting a Reiki business who are interested in learning about running their own Reiki business. So that is the Reiki Business Collective. So that's my YouTube channel. And I
Can I
also
ask you
offer,
one question? I'm sorry.
please, yeah,
How long have you been doing Reiki? I'm just curious about it.
um, 7 years. So
Okay.
I was attuned to Reiki through the master level in 2014. Is when I received my attunement. So since then, I have been practicing Reiki, although maybe my whole life. So,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So, those were my formal attunements, I should say.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's been almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years in October. So,
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking, and it truly is a great honor to be a Reiki master and to bring Reiki to people and also to teach Reiki as well. So all of that is a true honor for me. I know Reiki has had a great impact on my life, a profound impact, and one of its greatest blessings, I believe, is the releasing of judgment. And so Reiki has really been just instrumental in my life in helping to release judgment so that when that person stops in front of me on the road in traffic, I may be a little pissed off just for a minute and then I'm over it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, hold on. Just don't hold on to it. That's what I'm working on now. It's like I've never been one to hold a grudge or hold anything like that, but I do. I'm a woman and I'm very moody, and and I'm trying really hard to control that and be like, okay, it's okay. Accept my little angers and my little burst of internal angers and like letting it go right away and being like, I'm human, feel it, let it go, love it, love yourself through it. And because I want my daughter to experience that. And something that I wanted to mention, by the way, before we get on to your next offering, is going back when we were talking about transitions and how people can like kind of have transitions in different ways. I have found as a mother to a 2-year old that children at this age are going through constant transitions, and I think that is helping me balance and learn a lot about how like how to hold on to that space of joy, because they're learning everything for the first time, so everything's a transition for them. They're like, oh well, that's not right, or this isn't right, and they're trying to figure it out. So I feel like a transition for me is like you figuring out who you are going to become, because you aren't want to be this person anymore, while these little persons are actually learning how to do everything for the first time. So they're transitioning every single moment of every single day, going from right to wrong, learning morals, learning values. And I find that to be very interesting in how I'm, being a mother and like learning myself, I'm learning on the spiritual path and all of that. So I just wanted to add that in there to all the parents out there, to remember that those transitions that you're going through, that your kid is actually going through all of them right now at the same time. And they're learning it for the same time. So it's like, let's have some grace and space for that as well. So I just wanted to add that. Um, And so anyway, I'm sorry. Continue with your offerings because I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's great. Thank you for that and for mentioning the power of kids and their own transitions and all of the things that they have to teach us. Children, I think, are also awesome teachers and healers too. So, yes, now I offer Reiki card reading and coaching, and I do specialize in life changes and transitions and helping people to make the most of their life transitions, no matter what kind of transition they might be experiencing. And because transitions are not something that we really do talk a lot about, in our dominant Western culture, we don't do a good job of talking about transitions. So when we graduate from high school or college, we don't do a good job of acknowledging that transition, talking about it and all of its challenges. We don't do a good job of talking about transitions like marriage and how even though that's positive, can really throw us off and have us feeling a whole range of emotions and have us
West,
thinking,
yeah. Western
yeah.
culture doesn't really talk about a lot of anything that has to do with like speaking up about emotions. So, I mean, this whole new culture about, and that's the why I'm holding space is because I want people to understand. And this one specifically was why I fought so hard to get on is because it's so important to understand. A lot of people going through transitions think they're alone.
Yes.
They think that they're the only people going through this, and especially people who are not spiritually inclined or not in that woo world, or who not have not been introduced to these kind of things. They feel these transitions happening and they don't know what to do, and they think they're alone, but they're not. And there's people like you that are out there that can help them get through these transitions. There's people like me that can help them get them blocked. There's other spiritual practitioners. Not everybody is not for everybody, so I'm not saying that we can help everybody, but just these conversations and having these spaces for these conversations allows people like that would run across this at the right time, the universe gives it to them, and allow them and let them know that they are not alone and that there are people out there to help them. And I think it's
Yes.
extremely important because, like you said, Western society doesn't really give you a space to transition because they don't want to talk about it. They don't, it's like, no, you just deal with your shit. And it's like, no, it's like we're a human body experiencing this world, and we're a soul experiencing the human form, and we are all connected, and where you are faulting, there's somebody else that's there to help you pick it up. All you've got to do is just be vulnerable enough and be open enough and aware enough to allow that space in. And once you get on that path and once you see that, is where the magic really starts happening. So for anybody out there that's listening that's just kind of like, I just don't know what to do, or I just don't know who I am or where I'm at, we're here to create, we're here to support each other, we're here to help each other transition over in any way or form. And whether you call it transition or whatever you may call it, that, there's people out there that are on your page that are out there to help you and are going through the same thing you are.
Yes. Yes. Well said, Tamara, and so important to say. So thank you so much for saying it. That tip of you are not alone and help is all around you is actually one of the tips in my life change encouragement kit. So I'm really honored to offer the Life Change Encouragement Kit. It is a free kit that really has all of my best tips for the real basics of surviving and thriving during life changes. So, talking about that range of emotions and normalizing life change. We all go through it multiple times in our lives. And so I offer the Life Change Encouragement Kit as a way to help anyone in any kind of transition. And the great thing is that even if you might not be going through a transition or change right now, I guarantee you absolutely will. So, so getting that life change encouragement kit, no matter where you are on your journey, is going to help you for your journey. It
If
includes my.
anything, prep you up, get you ready, and be prepared for if for anything that happens. For those that like to be prepared, get a kit to be prepared for those life transitions. Yeah, I
Absolutely,
think
you've
yeah,
got it.
I don't know if you can see behind me all these books here. Those are my kits. They
Yes.
are all different, carrying different messages about how, if you transition because of trauma, if you transition because of business, if you transition because you're just human, like, so it's just this, there's all of that is there. So
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's great. So where can we find this? Where can we find you?
Yeah. So you can get the kit at standingstoneshealing.com/kit. That's on my site at Standing Stones Healing. And if you just go to standingstoneshealing.com, you'll see there are places where you can click to get the life change encouragement kit. Now, Tamara, I mentioned I am a Reiki master. I also offer a Reiki kit as well. And so this is a kit with information about Reiki, so Reiki basics. So I like to put together big kits for people of information, meditations, recorded meditations, and things like that. So if your viewers actually send me a message and send me the message kit, I will send both the Reiki kit and the life change encouragement kit. So they'll get both of them if they
That
reach out
sounds
to me
great.
directly. Yep. And you can get a
Okay,
hold
that's
of me. I'm on Facebook at Standing Stones Healing. I'm on Instagram at Standing Stones Healing, YouTube at Standing Stones Healing. Send me an email, Christian at standingstoneshealing.com. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you dealing with all the technical stuff. I really take you took care of me today. You're recording this for me. Who knew that Zoom can't be recorded on Chromebooks? I guess I'm just going to have to get a new computer. We're just going to have to get a new setup. So, anyway, I am super humbled and grateful that you were here to talk to me today. I really feel like I'm going to have to come back to you at some point and have a conversation again when I get more involved in learning about these methods that you use, because I'm going to try them. And I've never really been introduced to Reiki, so I might reach out to you for that. If anybody else wants to reach you out, I'll put all the information that he just shared in the notes in the comments. So, I just want to say thank you very much for sharing space with me and sending your message out there. And I just hope that somebody out there can connect to that. If you want to connect with me and keep up to date with what's going on in my little woo woo space and work with me, you can connect with me in the link in the bio, and you can get sign up for my newsletter. It's at tg-writer /woo-woo-news, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. Just go to tgwriter.com and sign up from there as well. And you get a free consult with me. It's 45-minute consult, and we can just talk about anything that matters, anything you want to talk about, business, um, soul stuff, soul and business, whatever feels good to you. I'm just there to listen and to give you some practical advice and tips on how to get through some life changes as well. I am a transition healer. I work with addiction. I work with trauma. I work with just getting people unblocked as a clairvoyant and that. So I thank you very much, Christian, for sharing space with me, and I will be seeing you soon. So have a great evening, and we'll talk. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so very much.